everyone, and welcome to Scone Day. Yes, I'm calling this Wednesday Scone Day. So I've got a couple new and exciting tools that I'm going to introduce you to, and Bristol apparently is already helping himself. So, for those of you who don't know me, I'm Aimee Talbot, and I am a Pampered chef consultant who absolutely loves to eat, and more importantly, loves to bake. And I'm so glad that Bristol has enjoyed the scones. So today, I'm going to show you a savory scone, how to whip up a delicious savory scone. And just realized that I need to grab my phone because I had the recipe on the iPad that I'm speaking to you with. Good times. Before I begin, I want to explain that this recipe is a very simple recipe. I will be attaching it following in my newsletter. So for those of you who don't get my newsletter, let me know. This is a great recipe that you can make adjustments to. This is a great recipe that you can add and omit if you need to. An easy recipe for those who are vegan to substitute the butter in for a great alternative to butters. I know I've got a couple alternative butters that I use at home when my daughter and I cook together. This is actually the recipe that she and I both use, both vegan and regular. Now obviously she wouldn't be necessarily making this recipe the same because today's recipe I'm going to make a cheddar jalapeno scone today. And I also want to let you know about, let me just show you guys. I whipped up in the same recipe with a few different adjustments, and again I will post this recipe. I did a blueberry lemon scone. So I used the zest of a lemon. And I only wanted to use one lemon. The recipe actually called for 4 tablespoons of zest, which would have caused a lot of naked lemons in my life. And because I'm not necessarily cooking anything with lemons, what I actually did is I substituted some of the lemon flavoring for a doTERRA oil or any other oils that you can ingest. So I put 4 of the drops of the lemon into the scones to give it that accent of the lemon flavor without having to use probably 4 to 6 lemons, causing it to be naked. Another thing that you can do is substitute back some of the liquid and add some of the lemon juice. So alternatively, I can do that, and I have done that in the past. And for those of you who know how much I love my lemon zester, the fact that I can use the zester and get every last ounce of the juice out, plus using the zest of the skin, and there's no waste. So today's recipe that I'm going to be concentrating on with you is a savory scone. I've made a gorgeous pot of chili. It's on the stovetop right now in my beautiful cast iron Dutch oven, and I want something to go with it tonight. So I'm going to make, and hope you all will come along with me as I make some cheddar jalapeno scones. And again, this recipe you can omit and add whatever you want. It's a very simple, easy peasy lemon squeezy scone that you can then toss into the freezer. And again, different variations. You can sweeten it up as well. It's identical recipe that I used for the other scones, the lemon blueberry scones. The only difference is I added the lemons and the blueberries to it. I'm also going to give you a hint. This recipe calls for buttermilk. I don't normally have buttermilk in my house. So alternatively, on the counter right now, I am making my own buttermilk. And for those of you who also don't have buttermilk in the house, an easy way to make your own buttermilk is to take a cup of milk or heavy cream or a half and half creamer, 1 cup to 2 tablespoons of vinegar, and you let it sit on your counter for about 10 to 15 minutes, and it's going to give that acidity that the two combine together to create the same substance as a buttermilk. So again, You don't have to have every single ingredient in the house. And for those of you who don't, like I don't every single time, that's okay too. We can make alternatives to all of it. So a really great recipe, really simple. And I'm gonna start off with, just to let you know, similar to what I did last week, which is I am using the pastry mat. So last week I had the pastry mat widthwise because I did want to spread the dough out and I wanted to make sure that it was rolling out nice. Today it doesn't actually matter. I'm actually going to be using the mat the other direction, and I'm actually going to be using my pizza cutter today. Why would you need a pizza cutter to cut scones? Well, again, these scones are in a cool triangle, the same way that you would get if you went to, I don't know, a fancy little coffee shop or Starbucks where you would get those triangles. So I'm going to show you a tip and trick, again, a really fast way that you can present them so they look nice. At my house, it doesn't matter as long as they taste good, doesn't matter what they look like, but I still like a presentation. So a really simple, again, fast way. We're busy. We don't have time. So let's do a couple things that can make our life easier. So I'm going to grab my phone and get the recipe because, like I said, I have put it onto my iPad and then forgot the iPad. I am using it. Oh my goodness gracious. Woo-wee. Sorry, folks. Oh, there's my phone. Anybody have an Apple Watch? It's great when you need to find your phone because I'm forever losing my phone. Okay, so I will again this is the recipe that I'm going to be attaching today to the newsletter. For those of you who don't get the newsletter, let me know and I am going to add you to it. This alternative recipe, like I said, this is the same one that I use for the sweet and the savory. So depending on what I feel like, that's exactly what I'm going to do. So hello Barb, hello Kim, and hello Mummy. Thank you for popping on today. So I'm going to start off with the oven should be on 400, okay? Just to let you all know. So preheat your oven at 400. I should have left mine on. I took the other sets of scones out. I do want you to note as well, I am not cooking my scones today on a stone. And you all know, for those of you who do know how much I love my stones, I call myself a stoner. And all of you fellow stoners out there, you know how much the stones are fabulous. These are our sheet pans. So this is the half sheet pan right now that comes with the rack. And what's great about this is that they can fold down and it can sit right on to the pan, and you can actually cook on this. Yes, this is oven and dishwasher safe as well. What I love about it is that it's easy to clean, but I also can use it as a cooling rack. You can also, again, put it on standing up, put your meat on top, have the drippings coming down onto the pan, and underneath you could have some baby potatoes, veggies and such, and as it's cooking, the drippings go down, and so you've got a one sheet pan meal, which is unbelievable. I love the sheet pans too, Ange, thank you. They are absolutely amazing. They are baker's quality, so they are extremely heavy. I'm not heavy as in a stone heavy, but not those cheap, crappy pans that you get at other stores. These also have a 3-year warranty. They are stunning. And what I'm cooking on there as well is I have my silicone mat on there, so I am not having to use parchment, saving the environment one little bit at a time, which is unbelievable. And you can see here, the scones are coming right off, not burnt at all, beautiful. And because of the silicone mat, I just can wipe the whole thing clean. These pans are incredible. It's almost like a convection. They cook around. This sheet pan with the rack together is $63. What? I know, it's crazy. It's a great, great deal. Anybody who knows people getting married, just starting off in the kitchen, that's an amazing, amazing pan. We have 2 other sizes, which I'm going to show you later because I'm going to put the scones on them. But I want to start off with the scones itself. So again, That's the same recipe as this. I've made that one sweeter. I've made this one obviously savory. That one's got some sugar in it. And again, I'm gonna attach the recipe. Really easy. So I'm gonna start the oven preheated. I am going to, in a large bowl, I am going to mix the dry ingredients. Now, today I'm actually using the stainless steel bowls. So these are non-grip or non-slip grip bowl. So you can see here the black bottom allows you to stir around and they're not going to slip. They come as a set, 3 in the size. So this is the large, which is a 24 cup. Yeah, 24 cup. Check out that bad boy. Gigantic. 16 cup, and I believe this one is a 8 cup, and it is the 8 cup. Thank you very much. All of them have a lid, which is amazing. And what I love about them is that you've got the handle, again, really simple to use. My favorite feature of this is when my girls were really little, I always had them in the kitchen next to me. Bristol has actually ditched me and is on the floor watching, hoping I spill. Normally he's sitting next to me, and as were the girls. And what was great is that they could mix along, and because of the non-slip grip, they weren't going to hurt themselves. So I love these bowls. Like I said, you get the 3 set, 24 cup, 16 cup, and 8 cup, and the measurements are inside the bowl as well. Again, for those bakers who love the extra measurements in their life, unbelievable. So we're gonna start the dry ingredients in here, and I'm gonna add 2.5 cups of flour. So I'm just gonna take my flour here. I'm adding 2.5 cups. Are you gonna come back? Are you coming back? I really think he thinks we're gonna be spilling something. And his Nana isn't here. So normally when his Nana's here, his Nana, whether she spills on purpose or not, he loves when his Nana is baking. So I'm gonna add the flour, and then I'm gonna add baking powder, baking soda, and salt, okay? So the 3 together are almost acting like yeast. And keep in mind, like I said last week, it's all about science and how we actually need the yeast with the hot water and the sugar last week. Today we are only adding the 3 together, which is going to help them to rise. This is kind of a flaky, beautiful pastry. So I'm adding 1/2 teaspoon of salt and 1 tablespoon of baking powder, which I have pre-measured in my 1 cup prep bowls. And I've added the salt and then the baking soda. I need 1/4 teaspoon. So the 3 of these together are acting as a rising ingredient together. So that's why the difference between a scone or a biscuit doesn't have that light fluffy the way that a yeast would do, and how you needed those ingredients together to form the fermentation. The flour, baking soda, and salt together is what is going to create that rise that you need for these. So I'm adding those dry ingredients, and then I'm going to add the butter. Okay, so I'm going to add the butter right to the flour mixture. The colder the butter for any biscuit or scone, the better, okay? And I am actually going to use my petite measure-all cup. So for those of you who have seen before, when I do bake, I love them. They come in 3 sizes, a 2 cup, a 1 cup. And why in the heck would you need the tiniest one? Well, what I love about this size is that it does teaspoons and tablespoons. So this recipe, I believe it's 6 tablespoons. It is 1/2 cup, which equals 6 tablespoons. So you can either use the tiny teaspoon or alternatively, the different size. So you can see there. So I used this one for the sweet one, so I will use this one and just show you what I mean. So I'm going to move it to the 1/2 cup mark, and then I'm going to take my butter, and what did I do with my little? Oh, there it is. This is one of the spreaders that we have, and it's silicone, so it's really great. I don't have to worry about scraping anything along because I'm just going to dig the butter. And again, the colder the better. So I've just taken this out of the fridge about 20 minutes ago simply to get it ready for today. Okay, and I'm just going to push all of the butter into the measuring cup. And you can see, I'm going to show you, again, those of you who don't have buttermilk in the house, that's fine. You can use milk, you can use half and half cream, or even a coffee cream. And if you add 2 tablespoons to a cup of that mixture, you're going to get the same consistency as a buttermilk. Okay, so what I did there is I've got the half of a cup pushed into my measural cup. Normally it slides better if it's not wet. I just washed it. And you can see there it's coming right, the perfect measurement, and I just plop it in there. Now there's 2 different ways that I can mix this. One is the manual food processor, and you all know how much I love my manual food processor, which I will be using later because I'm going to chop up the jalapenos. One of the other things that I love is the pastry blender. Now, I grew up in a house that didn't have a pastry blender because my mother always just used her hands, because her mother did, and my grandmother, both sides of grandmothers, just used their hands. There goes Bristol. He found the butter. But I love this because I simply can just push it along, and you want your butter to be about pea size, little pieces in here. And so I found with the pastry blender, you're blending it enough, but you're not kneading it, because for those who do enjoy a good, delicious scone, savory or sweet, you don't want it to be tough. You don't want those. You don't want a little brick. You want something delicious and smooth. So what I do is I just go along. The butter kind of gets inside it, which is beautiful. Don't use your fingers. This sucker is extremely sharp, but really handy. And again, it's dishwasher safe. And you just push it along. You're just pushing it and kind of mixing it. And essentially you're breaking the bits, like I said, into almost like like little peas, okay? And you're just, I'm gonna show you what it looks like. So this has taken all of, I don't know, maybe 5 minutes. I know I've talked more than 5 minutes, but that's all it is. So you can see there, it's mixed in. So you're breaking up the butter into itself, mixing it into the butter, but you're gonna see the chunks of butter into the flour. So that's what you're gonna do with that. And then we're gonna leave it for a second. Oh my goodness, all right. Then we add okay, so this recipe is telling you to put it in a food processor, which again, you don't need to. And for those of you who know how much I love my manual food processor, you can do that as well. If I'm in a pinch, I will add the butter and some of the flour, because obviously 2.5 cups of flour is not going to go into my manual food processor. But if I chop up the butter with some of the flour, it gives that kind of pea-sized shape. You want a small shape, and then throw it in there. But like I said, the pastry blender, it's beautiful, it's easy to use. And again, for those of you who have little ones at home, or even grandkids at home, this is a safe tool for them to use. Now, obviously, they wouldn't be touching the blade, but putting their little hands on here and getting their hands into the flour. And speaking of hands, there's no reason they couldn't get their hands into there and break it up either. The only thing is you don't want to knead it too much. This is kind of the kneading process. There's no wet in it yet to start that fermentation. But you also don't want to put the butter in too much to cause that toughness that's going to be doing it. So that's why, again, they suggest a food processor. I've got the manual food processor. You can do either one. It's very simple and fast. I've always said if you've got the right tools in your kitchen, things can go in fast. So we're going to add a cup of the shredded cheese and the jalapeno to my flour mixture. So I'm first going to chop up my jalapeno. So I've just taken 2 jalapenos, taken the tops off. I think I'll cut this big one in half. Oh my goodness. I'm gonna cut the big one in half. I'm not gonna cut on my pastry mat. Just gonna throw the jalapeno in. I'm keeping the seeds in. We are hot family, with the exception of my youngest, who's still home from university. She's gonna eat something else. So for those of you who know how much I love the manual food processor and how I couldn't live without it, it's honestly the simple fact. Yes, as Laura Lee, my mom just said, if you run the butter between your hands in mixing, it isn't kneading. Exactly, Mom. That's what I'm saying. The little bits of hands in there isn't going to cause the kneading, because over kneading is going to make things tough, as my mom has always told me. But that's what I love about the pastry mat, and you don't have to get your hands dirty. But this is a really great idea for the little ones who are still at home. Us in Toronto still have our kids at home. Those of you outside of Toronto, welcome back to reality where your kids go back. So there's how fast I can do 2 jalapenos. I'm just going to put them right into the batter with 1 cup of shredded cheese. Okay, so again, I'm going to keep the seeds in because I like spice. I have just made a big pot of chili, like I said at the beginning, and I wanted something to go with my chili. Okay, so my jalapenos are in, 1 cup of shredded cheese, and I'm going to just knead that in together. So I've taken my cheese, I've pre-shredded it. Please don't buy shredded cheese in the bag. There's so much junk in there. If you can shred your own cheese, do you know cheese can be frozen as well, even your pre-shredded cheese? These are Pampered Chef's glass bowls. They come in a 3-pack, which are actually on sale this month. They come with lids that are oven, microwave, freezer, and fridge safe. And again, just gonna take a cup of shredded cheese, and I'm gonna add that to the mixture. And again, the right tools at the right time make your life so much simpler. So I'm just gonna fold in the cheese and fold in the jalapenos just so that they're a bit, you can just see here in 1 second, they're just dry. Everything is just coated in the flour. I have to tell you, it smells amazing. For those of you who do like jalapenos, it smells delicious already. The suckers are gonna smell even better when I cook them. Okay, so we're mixing in the cup of shredded cheese, the diced jalapeno. Make a well in the center of the dry ingredients and pour the buttermilk in and push the dry ingredients into the buttermilk to combine. So essentially, you're just gonna mix it. And again, this is where you do not want to overmix, but you wanna make sure that they're wet. So I'm just gonna actually get all that last bit of goodness in. And my buttermilk is ready. I'm just gonna show you over here what it's kind of doing. I'm just gonna get a bit closer. There we go. So you can see I have taken heavy cream and 2 tablespoons of vinegar and created the mixture of essentially what a buttermilk would look like. Okay? Pouring that in, and that's the only wet ingredient that you're gonna need. So now I'm just gonna fold it over, and I'm just using one of my mix and spreaders. This recipe, if not a fan of heat, like I said, omit the jalapenos. Add some white and some orange cheddar cheese, so like an old cheddar with a sharp cheddar would be delicious. Just gonna squeeze that off. You can make this as well, add some garlic to it and some cheese similar to the recipe we did last week for the bread, and make a garlic cheese scone. How about those biscuits that you get at, remember that restaurant they used to have called Red Lobster when we all used to be able to go out? Yeah. So similar to that recipe is, you can totally do that with this. And here you can add garlic, fresh garlic, you can add some herbs to it, and then just add your shredded cheese, okay? So I'm gonna take this dough, and again, I'm just spreading it out. I do not even have to flour my pan. I don't have to flour my mat. This is my pastry mat because of the consistency of the scones itself. You don't even have to bother doing that. So now what I'm just gonna do is I'm just gonna spread it out onto the pan, onto the, my gosh, it's not a pan, onto the pastry mat. Now, you're gonna feel, and again, you're gonna see here, I'm just gonna show you my hands. Compared to what they were like last week, again, it's not sticky, and this feels drier, obviously, than a dough. Because the dough has, first of all, a lot more moisture in it, and secondly, this moisture is gonna come from the butter, which, in my opinion, butter makes everything delicious, which is why I love Pauline so much. The butter, as it's cooking, is going to melt down because this is not the melted butter. Remember, we've just got pea-sized pieces of butter all the way through. So the moisture is going to come in the baking. The moisture is actually going to also come from a little bit of cheese. And you want a scone that is perfect in the sense of not too dry and not heavy. You don't want a dense one either. So again, this is where the fact is you don't want to knead it too much. And so what I'm doing right now is I'm just patting it down. And as well, for a scone, you can do two different things. Like I said, I'm going to show you the pizza cutter, the way that I cut it. Or we've got a really nice set of biscuit cutters. Or if you don't have either of those, the way that my mom would do it, she would take, and I'm sure my grandmother, I know my Nana did, she would take an empty cup and would just turn around and would make the scones that way. Or biscuits, either one. Okay, so I'm just gonna quickly show you guys what I have done with these scones. Same recipe that I did with the blueberry lemon scone. And have simply left it into a perfect square. Now, again, I personally like a scone that's a good couple inches thick. I'm going to keep mine that way, and I'm going to show you the pizza cutter. So I'm going to cut half of them just to show you half that way, which I then just took a pizza cutter. I go across the same way I would slice a pizza, and again, and again. And if you don't have this, like I said, you can also use the end of a cup, right? Or you can use, we've got some beautiful biscuit cutters. Now I'm gonna put these on the cookie sheets that I was talking about. So the lemon blueberry are on the half sheet pan. We have them at a medium size, and we have it in a smaller size, which I believe it is called the small and the medium. They are sold individually. They are under $30. They are incredible, and I'm telling you, these pans almost act as well as a convection oven. The heat in them is circulating as they cook. I love this, Barb, as well. Like Barb just commented about the pizza cutter. I mean, it's just another way that I can use my pizza cutter. I'm actually going to take the scones up off of the pastry mat and just show you there, and I'm just using the little small metal one. That's the thickness that I prefer. You can see there the jalapenos and the cheese are all the way through. That's how simple it is. I'm going to put them onto the on the half sheet pan so that they can all go on. Now, I personally only have one silicone mat, which I thought I had two. FYI, guess what I'm gonna get myself this week is another silicone mat, because it's a lot better for the environment than using parchment over and over. I can simply just put it on there, easy peasy. So I'm just going to add the scones onto the half sheet pan. They cook in a 400-degree oven for 16 to 17 minutes, depending on what your oven temp says. And these are a very easy, delicious addition to my chili tonight. But again, an easy recipe that you would be able to use both sweet and savory. Enjoy. I will be passing this recipe on, and I will post some pictures tonight of both the different scones, one recipe, several ways that you can do it. Like the bread last week, I am all about how can we get some healthy, delicious homemade things onto your table quickly, and if I don't have everything in the house, how am I going to do it? I'm Aimee Talbot. I'm here to help you. Have a great Wednesday, everyone.